Welcome to Resource Thursday with Juan Fernandez. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is the place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. We have none other than Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how the heck are you today, my friend?
Doing great. Top of the morning to you. Top of the morning to you. No complaints.
Top of the morning, indeed. Man, now that makes me think of that Seinfeld episode. Now I'm hungry for muffins. But anyway, but before we go further, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our guest host today. We have none other than the Global Channel Chief at Hackware, the Chief Encouragement Officer over at the MSP Growth Coalition, and the author of the renowned, very impactful MSP Owner's Handbook, Juan Fernandez. Juan, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing amazing, you guys. How are you?
I'm doing
Good.
well.
Welcome,
I'm doing well.
Welcome.
This is really going to be one of those very impactful and hopefully a lot of nuggets dropped of knowledge that we'll have from the great Juan Fernandez. But before we go ahead and move forward, I'd like to talk about a little thing that's probably starting to become a really big favorite thing coming up this year. Rick, is it one of your favorite things?
Definitely. Every day gets closer.
And it's nerve-wracking, but I'll tell you what, Rick Smith says it's going to be the best one yet, and we're going to hold him to it. What am I talking about? It is the TechCon Unplugged 2023. TechCon Unplugged will be in Woodbridge, New Jersey this year, September 7th to the 10th in the Delta Hotels Woodbridge. Join us for an evening mixer as we kick off 2.5 days worth of content. And yes, you heard that right, folks. We are now going to be doing 2.5 full days of content that will be able to go ahead and help you save money, save time, and most importantly, improve your services to your clients. As we've mentioned with this podcast, this show as well is for any sized IT solution provider. Whether you're an emerging MSP or you're a veteran in the space, this is the place for you. Head over to techconunplug.com to take advantage of our early bird sale. It does end March 31st or April 1st. I can't remember always. What is it, Rick?
March 31st.
We'll say March 31st
at 11:59 p.m.
There you go. You heard it from the man as well. Is that ET or is that CT?
That's ET.
There you go. So you heard it here, folks. March 31st, 11:59 Eastern to take advantage of that early bird pricing, $199. Again, head over to techconunplug.com and you will see our newly revamped website. And we will hope to see you there. All righty, gentlemen. It's a happy Thursday. Friday Junior, as I like to say.
I like Friday Junior, man.
So Juan, we've had you on the show before. So for those that have not caught that episode, please go ahead and check that out. We also had Hackware, the owner and founder, Tiffany Ricks, over as well on a previous episode as well. But Juan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got here to today?
Yeah, the big thing about me, I think, is I come from the MSP space. A lot of people ask me, Juan, what are you still doing here? You exited your MSP and now what do you do? What's going on? And I said, the thing for me is, for those, you mentioned the book, the MSP Owner's Handbook. I got this mantra about me. It's called Live, Learn, and Give. And so one of the big things for me is it's not about the money. It's not about, where we're at in our lives. It's about helping others. And I know that, I mentioned it the last time I was here, is that the reason that I do what I do is because I wish somebody would have done that for me. I wish somebody would have been there in my first, IT company and would have helped me out when I was a one-man show. I remember those long nights at the bar, just staring at my glass thinking, man, I really hope I make it in this IT thing. I really hope I'm not wrong about this. So, and I remember those, right? I don't forget that no matter how far I've come and what I've done. And so I know there's still people out there that are feeling that way. And I know there's people that are starting their journey. I know there's people at that moment, and I'm just here to, again, use what I've, lived and I've learned. And now I'm just trying to give back. And so I'm really, really happy to be here. You guys do a wonderful job of that. You continue that go-giver attitude. And I'm really honored to be here with you guys today.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that, we crossed paths a few times, but I think you ended up taking the initiative to reach out to me because exactly like you said, I think that there's a time where, a lot of us, and especially if we go down this rabbit hole where, for me, you know, I had become a successful IT business owner, kind of straggling through, you know, finding, you know, community and them helping guide me and things of that nature. But, you know, there was another step above that where, you know, I've always, you know, there's always the identity of being a Latino business owner, right?
That's true.
And a minority business owner.
Yep.
And, you know, in my view, I always tried to say, well, why can't I just be a business owner that just happens to be a minority or Latino, right?
Yeah.
And so it was very hard to, you know, in my brain to follow those rules. And I, you know, and I can't complain. Like, I've been very successful in being able to do everything that on the opportunities that I was given, but I never saw anyone like myself in a position where I wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
Not in my industry. And so obviously when following Channel Pro and following some of those, I've seen you come up quite a bit when you were with your MSP and all the
Yep.
things that you were doing. And I was just always in awe, like, man, I got to connect with this guy. But I just, you know, life happens, figure out,
Yeah.
you know, what am I going to approach him with? So the fact that, you know, it was during COVID, you're like, hey, what's up, bro? I see you're kind of doing some things over there. Let's talk. And, you know, I think our first conversation, we were literally on the phone for about an hour and a half, just
Yeah.
literally just talking about everything and anything under the sun. And it was not a, you know, it wasn't hey, I got this nice shiny thing to sell you because this is my next endeavor, right? But it was more of like really understanding and just as a human being. And, you know, and I really appreciate that and our continued friendship for that. But, you know, it just gives to another layer of saying that, like, you know, exactly like you said, is that how can we, and what drives me and Rick importantly, and I'll let Rick kind of go into more of this as well, is, you know, how do we give back, right? Like, how do we have the ability, because I was always taught that if I was fortunate enough to take the elevator up, it's my obligation to send
Right.
that elevator back down.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's obviously why we do what we do, and we continue it. But Rick, you know, kind of going into this and really just trying to figure out this thing called MSP in the IT industry, but two, as a minority business owner, how has that impacted you on really trying to gain footing and just the success in your business? And you're on mute as well, my friend.
Good. Well, it's definitely a challenge, right? It's definitely something you always keep in the back of your mind. Well, in the forefront of your, it's always in the forefront, but there's definitely a challenge. But you know what happens is you learn that you develop that thick skin, you develop that keep going at it attitude, and you find people, you know. And I will say this, like, very much like you just said, you find people who you can emulate, who you see have done it, have made it, you know, despite whatever those challenges may be, and you can mirror that or you can emulate that, and it at least gives you that that sense to know that it can be accomplished, right? There are challenges, of course, and you know, I say this way: a lot of times you go places and you don't see a lot of people that look like you, and that could sometimes be a little discouraging. But again, you know, and I find this, minority or non-minority, there are people in the space who are willing just to give, to help, to you know, share the knowledge. Like, you know, what you've gotten from Juan, you know, you who are younger than me have given me a lot of that, right? So, and you know, we've talked a lot, and you know, we can share a lot of advice, and I'm not going to let you get away without making this announcement, okay? Speaking of giving back to the community, my friend, my co-host, Mr. Paco LeBron, has been named the 2023, excuse me, Peer of the Year from Channel Pro Magazine. And that is basically, you know, validation that he takes the time and is recognized for giving back to the community. So I want to congratulate you on that. I was very, you know, when I found that out yesterday, you know, I was smiling from ear to ear as if I got the award, but I was like, I'm so happy for you. And I think honestly, it's well deserved. So I'm not going to let you get away with not acknowledging that to you and to the community.
Yeah. So I think yeah, we can divulge on that on Tech Talk Tuesday, or if you're listening to this in order, you probably already heard us talk about it on Tech Talk Tuesday, which we record after Resource Thursday. That's a little behind the scenes for everyone. But to not, you know, and again, I'm very not about myself. I'm more about obviously to give to the community. and stuff. So rather than go down that rabbit hole, let's steer this back to really trying to make sure we get some community impact for sure. But Juan, you know, I think that really we had the ability to really help a lot of MSPs with, again, you're the author of the MSP Owner's Handbook, and this was the first of a series that is really going to impact a lot of MSPs to just dive into a lot of the things that they really should be prioritizing, right? And really understanding how to not only do it, but to do it, I don't want to say right, but with the most influence and impact to both sides, themselves and to their clients, right? And obviously you're doing this with Marnie over at Lifecycle Insights, who we love Marnie here. And, you know, can you tell us a little bit more about just about that book? Because I think last time you were here, you hadn't released it as of yet. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that, the content a little bit, and just how the reaction you've been getting hearing about that? And we'll make sure we have that link in the show notes.
Yeah, you jump over to the MSP Owners Handbook .com. You know, the big thing for that, you know, when we first started off on it, we figured, you know, hey, I get asked a lot of times on the strategy and structure of how to be a successful business owner. And I talk about it all the time. I call 2022 the year of a strategic MSP, because that was the year I felt like as an MSP community, we were really starting to think more about strategy. And I wanted to embrace that. And one of the things I didn't want to do was go back to tell you how to start a business, because you've already got a business. Most people know how to, even if you don't know how, you can just, you know, get started. But most of the people that were here, I felt like the point of presence was, what is the forward momentum for my business right now? Like, we didn't want to write another book about the past. We didn't want thought regurgitation. We wanted thought leadership. And so we started off with a strategic component of working on your business, which was what we came up with in the MSP Owner's Handbook QBR edition, because that was really the thing I felt like a lot of MSPs were struggling with. And whether, like, why do I want to do this? Like, what do I need to be doing, and the reasoning behind it? So that's the reason we started off there. The next version of the book is really stepping forward. So we're not going back to tell you how to retool your business. We're going forward. We're talking about things that help you move your business forward, and strategies and structures around how you can really change your business from what it is, and like inherit these designs, and like find out where the pitfalls are, and watch out for all this, because these will take you back a step. Like, you'll lose traction with customers if you say stuff like this, you know, just really. And it's reaffirming, right? Because I remember, I wish somebody would have been like, just really sat down and like, hey man, watch out for all these corners, and watch out for this turn. Man, you're going to get popped if you do this. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And if I just had something to like guide me through it, I wouldn't have had as many battered, you know, and bruised knees and scraped elbows going through my journey. But I remember all that stuff now, and I'm like, okay, let's just put it down on paper and let's move forward. So it's been fun. There's a lot of it in it, you know. During my time creating my last MSP, I was sharing like 7 keys to success, and I was talking about, you know, the accidental entrepreneur. Like, I'm literally illustrating my journey the whole way through and sharing everything during that time. And everyone would be like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, because that's what community does. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? And they're like, yeah, but like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just why you have to help people. They're like, what's in it for you, like monetarily? And I remember somebody asking me that at a conference. They're like, so how do you make money on this? And I'm like, I don't. I help people. Like, that's the part. Like, I love unlocking people and helping them move forward. So that's just why I do it. And the book has been an amazing response, man. You mentioned that a second ago. We wrote it and we thought we were going to sell a couple copies, but it actually has done really well. And I didn't expect that. It created another company that I didn't know I needed. Like, I need another company, right? But you know, the cool part, and here's the best part about the book, right? So everyone thinks that we wrote a book because I felt like I needed to write a book. I didn't write a book because I needed to write a book. The money from the book is actually going into a fund, and that fund is available. If you go to the URL, the MSPhandbook.com, you can actually click on Give Back, and in there, people that are looking for certification, just like once I was, they can go and apply for certification, and it goes through an approval committee, and there's like a support structure around it. So like you can apply for certification, upskill yourself. So MSP owners like yourself that are struggling, and not necessarily you two guys, I know you guys are doing great, but MSPs that are listening, if you got people that need to be upskilled and they don't have any certifications, like that's gonna be a new world for us. Have them go over and apply. Like there's no limit to who can apply. And so we've been working with CompTIA and ChannelWise and also Exposure to create a program to be able to support people through their certification journey. And of course, if you're awarded, we buy the certifications for you. And actually, you know, there's nothing involved in it. It's just pure give back. So all the sales from the book, 50% of the sales from the book are actually all going back into this fund. And we're really excited, man. We did a big book launch recently talking about the give back, and we're there. There's a lot of money in there now, and we've received donations from places that I didn't know we were going to get donations either. So businesses have come in and said, hey, we want to buy this for our company, and you know, here's some money too. And we're like, wow, we just really need it. Now we can help a lot of people. So it's been really great, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things there, right, that you've mentioned. And, you know, the ability of, you know, writing out a blueprint, right, of your journey, right, and not necessarily telling anyone, hey, this is the right way to do it, but specifically on take what you need from here to help make you successful, right? And that's a great way of putting that, because, you know, one part of kind of saying that, because, you know, and it's funny you said that, you know, you struck a chord when you said, when someone approached you and said, hey, how are you monetizing this, right? And how are you, like, whatever, right? So I had a vendor recently, which Rick knows that, but I didn't tell him this story until he's hearing it for the first time. And they said, all right, well, that's great. Like, I know you're all about the community and whatnot, but like, let's be real, like TechCon, you're making some good money on that, right? I was like, no, you realize that like it's all going to the cost of the venue and everything, right? Like we don't make money off, like we're not doing this to try to make money. It would be nice, but like the real initial impact of it is we felt at the time 5 years ago, and again, our show is a spinoff of some other shows, that this was a need for emerging, like basically IT solution providers through all the whole spectrum, right? And now I believe the community has gotten a lot better recently, in recent years, to really engaging that community aspect, and we are all as one. There's still a couple here and there, but I think we're in a better spot with a lot of organizations that really are truly understanding that. But yeah, it's just one of those where it just, you know, I looked and I was like, you know, I really would, you know, what was not the way, or like, trust me, if that was what I decided to do to make money, there's 15 million other things that I could do to try and make money than to throw an event for my peers. But in all genuality, it's really because I want to make sure that they succeed, because of me struggling to find a community. And after I found it, the year difference from the previous 14 of me in technology and IT was so impactful. So Rick, you know, I don't know if you have anything to say about that. Obviously, we always harp about community, but just curious on your thoughts on what I said.
No, you know, I talk about that all the time, the impact this community has had on me personally and on my business. And, you know, finding you guys and learning from the community and you know, befriending you, and you know, it's had a tremendous impact on how I do things. I'd say, you know, I turned things around 180 degrees, you know, in how things were done. So it's definitely about the community, and that's why when you know, approached me about this opportunity to partner with you and join, I jumped at it with zero podcasting experience. Yeah, everybody knows I struggled a lot with the podcasting when we started, and, you know, and putting together the show and everything. But, you know, again, it is, you know, my way of saying thanks, my way of also trying to help someone who was in my position, you know what I mean, who may be right now in my position. And I say this with all honesty, I'm still not where I want to be, right? I'm still growing, so I'm still learning. I'm still trying to teach what I learn, or, you know, not, you know, give back what I've learned. And that's what this is all about. And, you know, it's just, you know, I'm honestly, again, yeah, it would be lovely to make money from these things. But, you know, again, I feel, you know, I'm blessed, and I feel great about doing it. I look forward to doing it, and I don't feel like at all it is a burden or there's no cost to it. There's only upside, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting, you know. And so to your guys' point, you know, that's why we did what we did. And, you know, even with the Growth Coalition, you know, even my roles with Hackware, you know, my big thing is it's not about selling a product, it's about empowering others to be successful. You know, so even with Hackware, you know, the big thing there is, you know, Tiffany's an amazing entrepreneur, you know, and she's done a wonderful job of creating, you know, a very awesome corp company and a great product. But again, to the point, her heart's in the right place, right? And it's really, that's why I decided to do what I'm doing with them, is because I could have done a million other things. You know, I could have done anything. But you know, the thing for me is taking something tiny and taking it to these grand designs that, to your point, Rick, you said it a minute ago, you may not be where you want to be, but a lot of those things that you see, and Paco, you mentioned it too, those are inspiration moments, right? And so like, I didn't feel like taking a big giant, you know, opportunity and making it, you know, any bigger really resonated with, you know, my community, which is, you know, those that start at the bottom and have to get somewhere, right? And so I was like, why don't I help Hackware create something amazing and do it again, you know, and take something small and make it great. And that's where I think we're able to make the impact, because we're able to say we can do it, right? And that's the whole thing. That's the whole reason I'm here. Like, I feel like I'm a champion for change, and say, look, you can do it. Like, here's an example. Like, the whole book is not about telling you what the best ways to do it and the right ways to do it. It's about, here's some thought process around ways you can be successful, and just paving that path, because so many people are watching, like you said, Rick. You know, you started off at the beginnings, you know, you said that you weren't that good at podcasting. None of us are good at entrepreneurism when we first start either. I burned my first business to the ground. You know? Tiffany has a similar story, you know, she did the same thing. And it's like, it's just it's your journey. It's your story, man. And it's the thing, that's what's going to help a lot of other people. But I know this is Resource Thursday, and I want to make sure that we drop a resource. So one of the things that, you know, Paco, and I don't know if you had a resource that you were thinking about, but here's a thought. You know, I've been talking a lot about this with MSPs, and it's really interesting to see, you know, there's this shift between, I'm going to be talking about it at IOTA coming up. It's the MSP to MSSP conversation. You know, there's a lot of things to be considered there when you're thinking about how you transition. And I know that when I did it, I waited 2 years to even think about offering cybersecurity services, because I wanted to make sure my contracts were in line. I wanted to make sure that my talk tracks were in line, my sales process was in line, my support process was in line before I ever added a product. You know, a lot of vendors were pushing me to try to get products to market because we had a huge customer base. And I wasn't taking that pressure. I was telling them, shove it. I don't want to be like everyone else. You're not going to get me to do anything. I'm going to do it when I'm ready. And the reason is because I hate to be deposed on the bench, because I would expose myself to liability that I wasn't ready for.
Right.
And so those steps to making that move are really important, that you make them right, you know, and that you're ready for offering that. I said this all the time. If you can't pass a risk assessment, you should be careful of offering cybersecurity services, because if you're going to start positioning yourself as that foremost authority, you better be able to back it up. And so that being said, here's an exercise, and we'll do this real quick, Paco. I like to do this often. And so when you're thinking about these movements forward, even for MSPs that aren't thinking about cybersecurity, there's the needs and the wants of a customer. And if you take and draw a little spreadsheet out and just a piece of paper, and you just kind of put it in a cross shape, and you define needs in one quarter and wants in another, and then you kind of below that, you look at pressures, you know, what pressures customers to make decisions. And you ask yourself, okay, with this customer type, what do they need? And then you put that there, only come up with 5 things. And then you put, what do they want as a second subset? And then at the bottom, you put what pressures cause them to make purchase decisions. Like, what's pressure? Like compliance, regulation. What are the things that are making them buy? And if you do that, let's just say you pick nonprofit, right? And you come up with needs and your wants. And then you pick your offering and you look at what you offer. And then you draw lines to their needs. And then you draw lines to their wants. And you'll notice that maybe you don't match up. Your product doesn't necessarily match up with some of their needs. You start to realize the type of customer that may not be the right customer for you. And if they don't have the right kind of pressure, and if you can't suffice, your offering doesn't suffice for the pressures that they have, like compliance or security or regulation, you may find that your offering isn't good for that customer type. And I'm going to be doing this live coming up here in a little bit, but it's really fun to look at. And here's why I'm getting to this, because, okay, yes, good for you, Juan. I'm glad that you understand that customer may not be good for me. But here's the flip side of the coin. If that customer is good for you, the needs and the wants of your offering is the conduit. So if I need this and you offer it, the questions, and I only say this all the time, I talk about this in a class that I do called Know the No. You need to know the no you're going to get before you go into it. Well, if I ask questions that I have answers to, most likely I'm going to get what we call a yes, right? So if my offering matches up to your need and your want, and I ask you the question because I know you need that, and I know that my offering does it, I'm only asking smart questions, right? And so it's like, oh, well, customer A, well, how are you, what's, as far as your business goes, what are some of the needs of your business? Do you guys need these types of things? And they're like, yes. That's great, because I have a product or a solution for that we offer in our business. And here's our process to do that. Well, I know that companies of your type want these types of things too. Is that something that you guys want? Oh, absolutely. We would love to have that. And well, great, because I have a process and a program that supports that. And so are you guys also regulated by, X, Y, and Z? And like, is that something that you're concerned about? Like, meeting those regulations? Oh God, yes. That's a big challenge for us. Well, perfect, because I have a solution for that as well. You literally given yourself the opportunity and the deal, because now you've asked questions to those notions that lead back to all of the things that you want, which is the yes. So I wanted to just share that little exercise, because I know that it's interesting when you look at it, because it literally is super simple. Like, you just draw it and then you say, okay, here's the question. Do you need X? Do you care about Y? Are these things important to you? And now you have like a whole sales process. So I wanted to share that as a resource. I don't want to get out of here without being being Resource Thursday.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I think, you also hit on the key point of, that's the importance of standardization and being able to have a set program and understanding who you can approach, right? And understanding who is your ideal client, because I think not only are you able to do that exercise and connect the needs and wants, but as an additional layer to that is now you can start that conversation when you have clients that you are doing X things for, or learning about things that you should improve on those services, and then attack those others in that industry. So like for us, we've standardized on the verticals of legal, private healthcare, and manufacturing. And I'll just go into the legal part of it specifically is the employment law. Like we specifically go after employment lawyers. And the reason for that, there's a couple strategies behind that, but one of them is, when you embed themselves, their needs are going to be different than, let's say, a personal injury lawyer. And so you can't attack the whole vertical at the same way, right? And so allowing yourself to do that and getting the standardization, now you can automate, now you can do things to scale and be predictable. And obviously that helps you in the long run. But also being able to have both of those opportunities of really speaking to the needs and the wants, you have now the option of, all right, here's where I am. Do I want to go here? Do I want to stay on this path? And then one question that I'll ask you here before we leave for the episode, Juan, is actually, it's going to be two questions. It's a two-parter. Is are MSPs, should MSPs already be MSSPs because of the nature and kind of where we are in our industry, and or can an MSP or an IT solution provider still just only provide IT support without security?
Oh, that is a good question, man. And I'll tell you this, you know, one of the things, you know, obviously here with Hackware, one of the big things is empowering our customers to be successful, you know, with our solution set and also our partner program. And that we talk about some of that in there. It's like, you know, that journey between A and B, right? And MSPs that are looking to make the jump to MSSP, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily a requirement to actually rename yourself, but I do think that it's important that we look at all of the opportunities that are required to actually, you know, offer a cybersecurity practice. The first things first is double check to make sure that you have all your limits and liabilities lined out, all the things that you need to be doing in your organization, and that you're shielding yourself from all those things. You know, that's going to help you understand more. And again, look to frameworks to be able to understand whether or not you're actually even able to, you know, CMMC or these other types of frameworks that are available to you, like NIST and other things. Align yourself with those, and then you can actually start to take that journey. And it's a long one. Don't run. Don't get in there too quick, because you can get in trouble. And then on the other end of the stick, your second question was, can they offer cybersecurity services or just IT services without cybersecurity services? There will be a flavor of MSP that does that. It's going to be one of those where, again, giving a customer a choice to make a purchase, they will always choose the cheapest one unless they have a reason. And now if we look back to those customer types that don't have any pressure and don't have any regulation and nor compliance, that don't really care about, like, they don't have anything pushing them into that arena to actually get compliant with some reason, they're going to be really hard to push because there's no reason for them to do it. It's just like giving me a diet plan and telling me, Juan, you know, here's a diet plan, you could lose weight. I'm going to look at that thing, but I'm going to look at that bullet candy and I'm ready to say, you know what, I'd rather have that bullet candy. Or if I get a diagnosis from my doctor, it says, Juan, you're going to die, and if you do not lose weight, and you cannot have any more sugar. Well, you guess what? I'm going to go hit the gym and I'm going to quit anything sugar the second that I hear that. Right now, I have a pressure that's going to make me move to do something because I'm going to die if I don't.
Right.
Like, even if it's not true, the fact that somebody told me here's the reason that it's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying don't build out fictitious outcomes. Be realistic about businesses not existing through the fact of a breach, but don't sell fear. I hate that. Be very honest about it. And that's where you have to be quantitative about the risks associated. And that's the education point. That's why I call 2023 the year of education. Because MSPs need to learn more about this whole situation, because that's the cheaper choice that we've often let customers not make, is secure, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to get you good enough because that's all you really want to pay for. That's not the right mantra. This year is our opportunity to learn more about it, which, again, to your point, Paco. And then number two is to educate our customer. And, you know, that's what we're really about here at Hackware, is educating our customer and really, you know, helping them understand. And that's, you know, that's why I'm at Hackware, because I feel like I can make a big impact there. Cybersecurity education and awareness for those that are looking, you know, that's, you know, people are clicking on stuff all the time. We got to help them understand they can't do that. Right. And that's what Hackware helps you do. So, and it helps you monetize the mailbox, which we know that's a loss leader. So if you guys are looking to try to figure out how to make some money on that mailbox, come hit us up.
Nice. So, Rick, as we round out the show, any lasting thoughts or insights?
Well, I've learned a lot. I do have a question on. I don't want to harp on this one, but what you were talking about matching the needs and the wants, does that also lead to maybe hiring an MSSP as an MSP, hiring an MSSP to handle the cybersecurity portion of that? Does that, you think that exercise will lead to us basically? I know there are MSSPs that do that now, right? You can go hire them to do it. Do you see that market expanding and the MSP market staying, you know, also expanding? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I think so, but maybe just give me a little bit better. Are you saying, is the MSP market going to grow more and the MSP market going to grow based on needs and wants?
Well, okay. You got a choice as an MSP. You can work to become an MSSP, right? Sure. Or you can stay an MSP, and we're talking about, hey, if my product does not match a certain customer's needs and wants, and I want to keep that customer, I have the option of finding a partner, so an MSSP,
Oh, 100%.
that can meet that portion of it.
Yeah, no, and I love that. That's where I think community is going to become a big thing this year. You know, Joy Baland mentioned the other day on our community edition live stream that we did. She talked about no man left behind. You know, and I think that the community this year is really embracing that, where we're all caring for each other. We're all in this fight together. And, you know, if you don't have the opportunity in your business today and you got this particular need, this is what I tell MSPs all the time. Don't stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone, because the more you do that, the less you know about it, the worse job you're going to do until you're ready for it. Right. So if you got a partner until you get to the point where you're ready for it, then do it. But maybe you want to consider if that customer type is the right customer type for you, if that's really pushing you outside. And that's what I tell MSPs in that same thing. If they're asking you, if your needs and wants don't match up to that customer, if to what you offer, that's a clear indicator that you may not offer everything that they need. And they're going to probably stretch you outside of your comfort zone. Right. So that's a twofold exercise. Like if you see them needing and wanting more stuff than you do, and you don't do that, then that's a clear indicator that that might not be the right customer for you. So that's the first no you should give yourself is no, that's not the right customer type for me. And really at the end of the day, if you're going to go into that realm and you find yourself there and your customer grows into that, and you're like, just partner, right? And, or if you got the expertise and skills on the back end and make it happen, then I say, then maybe embrace it. But yeah, be careful there, because use that exercise to understand, is this the right customer type for me? And if not, then just stay away from it. Stop going to that customer type, you know, and
yeah, you make a very good point.
Yeah.
And it helps you know where know what you don't know, because you sometimes, like you say, you think you have it, and then you realize that that customer grows to a point where you're stretching yourself and you're like, wait, I'm a little out of my realm, and I got to either get help or get out, because, you know, I'm going to, you know, I'm really going to put myself in a bad position if I don't.
We did it a lot, man. I mean, I've done it, and even in some of my locations when I had my MSP, it was large. So having 16 locations was a pain to try to, you know, keep everyone tight. But we had a specific program, and I remember the email that I wrote to everyone, and I saw it the other day because I was looking for something. The biggest and most impactful email I wrote was, "This is who we are not." And everybody it was all the things that people kept bringing to the desk saying, hey, we can do this. Hey, we can do this. Hey, we can do this. And it's like, we are not that. Like, here's what we are. And it was a clearly defined, this is who we are. If they want all these other things, they have to have this relationship with us to make that happen. And even at that, it was a limited scope, right? So you have to be really focused on what it is you do. Otherwise you become, again, like I say on my masterclass, don't become a jack of all trades, man. Be a master of some. Be really freaking good at that and be known really good at that. I know everyone's like, oh man, I got to do security. I got to do security. I got to do security. To your point, Rick, you don't have to do security if you don't want to, but just know that you're going to stay away from it completely if you're going to do that. Now, I'm not saying you should, because this is a world where we should be helping our customers move forward. And security is the modern way of doing business, because that's where we're at. But if you choose to do business with retail where they don't care about any of that, okay, well, fine, do business with retail. They don't care about security at all, right? They're like, just get my POS working and make sure my credit card machine is on, right? And you're like, but you need security. And they're like, no, I don't.
Right.
So, sorry about that. I'm overrunning a little bit, but yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, Rick. Just stick to what you're good at and really understand who you are and go to market with that. Yeah.
I mean, you made a good point on understanding on not overstretching yourself, and really understanding on what to attack and what not to, right? Because, you know, and Rick just said it too, and I did the same, where we took on a client, investment firm. They were a 4-person shop. We were rocking and rolling, and then they grew to 15 in a matter of like 4 to 6 weeks. And it was more projects and more integrations and more whatever. And at that point, my integrity and our brand of our business was more important to me than trying to make the money and keep up. And at that time, I was only just me. So I actually had to fire them. And that was one of those clients that I was like, man, if I just had the right help at the right time, I would have been able to keep them, but I couldn't. Right. And
Wow,
so
hey.
that's something you just got to know about not only yourself, when looking at your clientele or just clients you're trying to approach as well.
That's why it's really important to ask customers questions like that when you're first getting in with them and you're onboarding them. It's to say, hey, how much do you guys plan on growing this year? You know, as far as growth in your organization, what are the big milestones this year? And if you feel like you're going to hit them, and when you're making your annual budget, it's still February. We just came out of January, right? So, I mean, for those that are budgeting, like, do I need resources? You know, am I going to need resources to support this client base? And does the money mean the same thing when the customer's paying me? Can I afford those resources? That was the thing. Like, and again, Paco, you've heard me say this is the profit protection program. I built a business for profit, and I knew exactly how I needed to scale it. And I knew the people I was going to need, and I kept ahead of that trend. Now, I can't say I did that every single time because I did fall flat a couple of times in many years. But let me tell you, for the most part, I was like ahead of it. I was like, okay, I need this many resources for this much. And I just kept building that trend line so that I wasn't in. But honestly, it's just really about your process. We can dive into that at another time, though.
For sure. We and I love that that method, the infamous knowing to put that quarter in and getting that dollar out. For sure.
Quarter in, dollar out. Yeah. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. We'll definitely talk about that. Well, Juan, you know, as always, it's always a pleasure. We always talk about you here on the show on a lot of the insights that you've given me or just our conversations. So
thank you.
Obviously, really appreciate everything you do for the community. Appreciate you coming out today. If someone wanted to reach out to you, know a little bit more about Hackware, the MSP Growth Coalition, the book, or just to pick your brain and just want to chat with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Hit me up on LinkedIn, man. For those of you guys that want to come, my email address is juan@hackware.com. Feel free to ping me over there. Jump over. We got cybersecurity sales master classes going on left and right. We got the LinkedIn live community that you guys can jump over if you want to jump in for some conversation, start talking about cybersecurity. We got a lot of great voices that are coming on. And if you want, just jump over to a couple of our voice of the customer meetings. If you guys want, you know, we're just trying to help the ecosystem really grow, and all through community-led initiatives. So come join us, stick around. I'm going to see you guys at TechCon Unplugged as well. We might be doing some really great exercises there too. So I'm looking forward to it, man. And thanks, Paco, and thanks, Rick, for having me, man. I always love being here. And again, I love what you guys are doing. So thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Yep, we're happy to have Hackware coming to TechCon Unplugged here this September. Rick, I'll let you give your insights now on a little bit about as we round out the show, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I just want to thank Juan again. You know, I think you have a lot to offer the community, and in the short time I've known you, I've learned a lot, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with the rest of the community, and I definitely think you have a lot to offer that we can all gain from. So I do hope to see you present something at TechCon, because I think it would be great. It would be great for the community itself. And with that, I'm just going to remind everyone again, TechCon Unplugged tickets are on sale at techconunplugged.com. And that will be it for me today.
Very cool. Again, Juan, really appreciate you coming on here, and we appreciate you tuning in today. You can catch us every Tuesday and Thursday to catch the video podcast over at youtube.com, or you can go ahead and take us on the go. We're on all your favorite podcatcher apps, Amazon Music, Spotify, and on Apple Podcast. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.